This week's Global Travel Update presented by Rosetta Stone, helping you speak freely worldwide.
Pretty cool graphic, huh? Hey, everybody. Peter Greenberg here with you. As you just saw on our screen, coming to you from Arizona and Grand Canyon West and the Hualapai Reservation. We'll be talking about that, of course, and of course, answering your questions. And there's so much to talk about today in the news. And let's start with that, and then we'll get to everybody's questions. First of all, we're here in Arizona because we're shooting one of the segments of my PBS show about hidden gems of the Grand Canyon. And here we are doing just that in rather intense weather, about 103, 104 degrees, sometimes even in the shade, but we're getting through it and we're having a great time. Let's talk about the news. Why is it that every plane is full, every airport is crowded, airfares seem to be high, and the airlines aren't making any money? How'd that happen? I can tell you. Starts with the low cost, low fare carriers like Spirit and Frontier. In order to stay competitive, they've been discounting even more. And then what happened? Airlines like Delta, American, and United, but particularly Delta, decided they're going to match them. Guess what happened? Delta's profit in the last quarter dropped 29%. They lost the fare war. And it reminds me of the days in the 1980s and 1990s when we were seeing so many airline bankruptcies that, strangely, the definition of a great airline was which could lose money longer. That was a successful metric, right? If you lose money longer, you were in. Well, are we back to that? Is Delta now a low fare carrier? Well, at least on domestic routes, it seems to be. So here's what's happening. It's sort of a perfect storm. We'll go back to last April when surveys reported that about 38% of Americans said they would willingly go into debt to pay for their travels. Well, guess what? The bills are due and they're taking a look at it and they're sticker shock and they're paying compounded interest on their credit cards. As a result, they may not be traveling that much between now and the end of the year. And sadly, law of unintended consequences, there was and still is a knee-jerk reaction to the tragic events of last Saturday in Pennsylvania, because the attempted assassination of former President Trump had another reaction in the travel marketplace, with so many people either not booking or canceling existing bookings just because of the enormity of the situation and the uncertainty of the situation, and people just wanted to stay home. I'm reminded, if you take a look at events like this, terrible, tragic events like this, going back to the Kennedy assassination of November of '63, people didn't travel for Thanksgiving because it was about 5 or 6 days before. People didn't travel very much at the beginning of the summer of 1968 after Robert Kennedy was assassinated. So there is a sort of a behavior repeating going on of uncertainty and nervousness. So you're going to see airfare prices as an indirect result of that, but more importantly, the economy in terms of pricing that happened earlier this year, where people are going to hold back and maybe wait until next year. Now, some of the results we're hearing in terms of the research say that 94% of Americans, that's a staggering number, 94% of Americans say they're going to go somewhere this year. Yeah, but here's what the research doesn't tell you. What the research doesn't tell you is they didn't tell you how they were going to go. Every holiday period, whether it's Memorial Day, Labor Day, July 4th, when AAA tells you how many Americans are going to be traveling by car, here's what they don't tell you. How many Americans are going to be in each car? Is it going to be a clown car? Is it going to be the Clampett family with Granny on the roof? You know what? As gas prices continue to rise, they haven't spiked, but they are going back up again. We may be seeing that as well. So the numbers are a little bit misleading sometimes. They have to be given context. But the reality right now in terms of fares, at least on the domestic side, they are dropping. And if you hadn't made plans or you were thinking of not going somewhere, you might want to see what the airfares are going to cost. But then again, please do us a favor and pay your credit card bills in full every month, or the interest you'll be paying takes away that discounted airline ticket in a heartbeat. All right, so that's the first thing I want to talk about. Second thing, another sad anniversary today, July 17th, 1996. I know where I was that morning. I was reporting for NBC from the Olympics in Atlanta. And then I flew to JFK on a blisteringly hot day. It was about 98 degrees to take a flight to Europe and to going into Moscow and then back into Switzerland. And that was TWA Flight 800. I remember passing that plane as we went down the tarmac to line up for takeoff. And that was July 17th, 1996. Everybody died when the plane essentially blew itself apart, when the center gas tank, all those conspiracy theories about missiles and Navy ships, throw it out. When the center gas tank ignited because of corroded wiring that arced, when the pilots attempted to transfer fuel from the left tank to the right tank to the center tank, a normal procedure to balance out the plane. But this is an older 747, and nobody had maintained those wires. And the insulation had been basically corroded off by the toxicity of the fuel, and the center tank was empty. Only had about 70 gallons of fuel, mostly fumes, because they were going with what? They were going with tailwinds to Europe. They didn't need the extra fuel. And so when they just had to balance the flight out and they pumped it into that center tank, you had oxygen, you had fuel, you had a source of an explosion, and you had the electrical spark that ignited it all. A terrible, terrible tragedy, July 17th, 1996. I know about all the conspiracy theories about terrorism and about missiles being launched by a U.S. Navy ship of all things. The investigators soon found a link, and they went out to the desert in Arizona, not far from where I am now, where they had a lot of mothballed 747s of the same vintage. And they basically recreated the situation. They filled the fuel tanks, and then they tried to transfer it to the center tank. Guess what happened? Plane blew up on the ground. And there were similar blowing up of planes on the ground in other airlines, luckily on the ground where there were few injuries, but in the air, it was catastrophic. Anyway, July 17th, 1996, we honor those who gave their lives that day. And we remember them, hopefully that the lessons that we've learned are lessons that we've then subsequently applied. So that's the crazy stuff. And of course, getting crazier in Europe, not with terrorism, but with tourism. Barcelona marching against tourists. Barcelona passing a law allowing no more apartment rentals for tourists. Amsterdam outlawing the building of any new hotels in the city. Think about this. Venice still charging a fee just to show up. And Greenland is thinking of charging a fee. The number of people traveling this summer is staggering, with one exception, France. That's right, we got the Olympics coming up. Now, if you've got tickets to the Olympics, I know you're going, right? We figured that out. But what about everybody else? Guess what? Millions of people were expected to go, and millions of people aren't going. They've decided, we'll do Paris next year. It's going to be too crowded and too expensive. And so we're back to Delta Airlines again. Not only did they have a 29% drop on their profits, they took a $100 million hit in revenue for flights that are not full going to France. And guess who even took a bigger hit? Air France, $196 million hit. For people who said, I'll go later. I'm reminded of what? The 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles. I was living there then. I'm living there now as well. But back in 1984, that's 40 years ago, people were so fearful of millions of people descending on a city that was already choking in traffic on the freeways that everybody said, you know what? I'm leaving town. It's going to be nuts. And a lot of people said, I'm not going to go because it's going to be nuts. What was the answer? I stayed, It was the best time ever to drive on the freeways at any time of the day or night. It was ridiculous how empty Los Angeles was during the 1984 Olympics. Uh, it ain't empty today, and neither is our other parts of the world. So the bottom line is, if you want to be a contrarian traveler, you might want to go to Europe after September, where there won't be any crowds, number one. Number two, airfares in the United States dropping dramatically. And when that happens, you'll see hotel rates dropping dramatically as well. So we'll keep a close tab on that for all of you and monitor that situation. Okay, let's go and say hello to some people, folks. Here we go. I'm going to scroll back up. Okay. Matthew wants to know, can I recommend a hotel in Budapest? I'll give you two. And they're both classics. One is the Four Seasons, a little pricey. The other, which might surprise you, is the Corinthia. Check it out. All right. Gina saying hi from Tulsa. When is a good time to visit southern Italy? I'm guessing not July or August. You are correct. No, you couldn't pay me to go during July and August, but September is the magic month of all the Mediterranean. There you go. And the Aegean. So, and the Adriatic for that matter. So check it out. All right. Paul is saying greetings from Ashland, Virginia. Hot here as well. Sue is saying hi from Bellingham. Camilla is saying cheers from 101 degrees in North Tucson. I got you beat. We're 103 here in Grand Canyon West. Katrina is saying hello from Alabama. Juan is just saying hello. Lorena is saying hello from a cool down Lansing, Michigan. Jeff saying hello again from Carroll, Iowa. All right. Nice to talk to you. Jason saying hi from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, home of the Republican National Convention. I'm sure you're just hoping and counting down the hours until Friday when you get control of your city back. This happens every year at a different convention city. It's just invaded, right? It's cool. It's exciting. A lot of energy, but then you just want it to calm down on the shores of Lake Michigan there in Milwaukee. Priya is saying, hope you're doing well. Back in Chicago after 2 weeks in Scotland and Ireland. Amazing places. I heartily concur. I know that I'm not a big fan of reincarnation, but I will tell you that when it comes to Scotland and Ireland, I'm actually convinced I lived in both places in a previous life. Go figure. All right. Tim is saying, greetings from Atlanta. I'm glad you are well. Two questions. What don't you like about your job? I don't think, you know what? I love my job. Now, everybody wants my job until I tell them my schedule. Probably the schedule, but it comes with the territory, right? I mean, I go to Beirut the way you go to, the supermarket. I'm back the next day. I mean, I'm not lounging around with a pina colada stuffed up my nose, although the temptation is there. But the answer is, the only thing I don't like about my job is that I'm not allowed to stay too long in any one place. I just don't have the time. We're doing too many projects, and travel is news. It's front page news. It's not just lying at a beach chair. Okay. Any updates on the Grand Hyatt Erawan in Bangkok? 6 found dead. No, I don't have the updates on that. I've stayed in that hotel many times. You got the Buddhist shrine right there on the corner. And they have an amazing, it's an amazing hotel. It's not a new hotel, but it's an amazing hotel about the way they treat their spa and their spa suites. And it's a great location for shopping. But I will get on that, Tim, and get you some answers as soon as we can get a little bit deeper into it. Okay. Priya says the Grand Canyon, beautiful place to see the dark sky. Couldn't agree more. We saw amazing dark sky last night. Okay. Colleen, I saw you posted on digital nomad visas. I'm most interested in staying in Turkey, Belgium, or Japan in that order. I speak French and Flemish Dutch. I can understand a bit of conversational Japanese, but have no Turkish language skills. Any recommendations? Yes. First of all, I highly recommend Turkey as your first choice. Yes, my wife is Turkish, but trust me when I tell you this, it's all because of the power of the US dollar against the Turkish lira. I mean, about 10 years ago, it was 1.1 lira to the US dollar. Today, it's like 32. Buyer's market all the way. But I'm going to give you some Turkish language skills. Are you ready? Merhaba. You know what that means. Hello. But now we'll get to the important words. Okay? Here it comes. Number one, lokum. You know what that is? That's Turkish delight. I mean, I live on that stuff. Number two, kanafe. Kanafe, the most amazing cheese dessert. And then my favorite, sütlaç, rice pudding, which they torch on the top like a creme brulee. Those 3 words alone, you'll be going through Turkey and knows. Oh, one more. Simit, the best bread ever, right? And you go to one of the oldest bakeries near the new Peninsula Hotel, and you get there about 5:30 in the morning, and it just comes out of the oven so hot. And buy as many as you want. You'll become addicted. Okay, here we go. Tim says, I want to cross the Antarctic Circle on an exploration and, of course, walk on land, ice there in January, February of 2025. When should I look to book, and any suggestions on who to go with? Well, first of all, do you want to sail there or fly there? There's now an air bridge. But if you want to sail there, I'm a big fan of Silver Sea. It's a little pricey, but they do it well. And they also have the air bridge if you want to use that as an option. Why the air bridge? Because it avoids going through the Drake Passage, otherwise known as the Drake Shakes. That could be one of the roughest bodies of water in the world. And I can tell you, not from personal experience, but I know so many of my friends having extended conversations with the porcelain telephone on those cruises, not just on Silver Sea, but every ship. But still, it's an experience I wouldn't trade for anything. You can sail from Ushuaia in Argentina, or from Puerto William in Chile, or you can fly from Ushuaia and some other locations all the way down to King George Island and then catch your ship there. January, February, best months to go, especially January. Okay. Hi from upstate New York. Really enjoy reporting new and recommendations. Well, thank you. Okay. Tim says, I can't afford the air bridge. Okay, then sail and just get your sea legs, but you'll be fine. I've been on the Drake Passage when it was flat calm. That was one time. The other 9 times, hold on. You'll be needing some help on that. All right. Let's go, first of all, to an announcement of importance. And I've been talking about this for a long time. We'll go back to September of 2015. It was the last flight, actually, it was the retirement flight of a British Airways pilot on a 777 from Las Vegas to London. He was going down the runway at McCarran, now called Harry Reid, when the left engine had a fire. And at the very last second, he was able to successfully abort the takeoff, even though the plane was fully loaded and was at max gross weight. They had to evacuate. They couldn't use half the side of the plane because it was on fire. So here's a plane with half the exits blocked, fully loaded. How long did it take them to evacuate? Try 11 minutes. And people were going down the slide with their carry-on bags. It was crazy. Nobody wanted to listen. They were the luckiest passengers I know because 11 minutes is an eternity. Remember, every airline is supposed to demonstrate to the FAA that they can safely evacuate a fully loaded plane in the dark with half the exits blocked in less than 90 seconds. And I've been arguing for years that the only way these airlines continue to pass the test is they hire the cast of Cirque du Soleil. There's no other logical reason. I'm now going to show you a video of a flight that had fire and smoke, actually smoke, in the cabin when the captain ordered, they were on the ground, an emergency evacuation, right? Pop the doors, pop the slides, everybody go. We have video of this. Watch what happened.
Leave the fucking van! Go out! 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 Evacuate the plane! Go out! Go forward! Go forward! Do not take your back! Go forward! Go forward! Do not take your back!
What's just this fucking thing?
Get outside!
It's outside!
Go forward! Do not take your back! We are forward! Do not take your back! Go forward! Do not take your back!
Ich stehe beim Fenster. Papa, bravo!
Go forward! Do not take your back! Go forward!
Ja, Ruhe! Es war nur das. It was a battery or whatever.
That's okay. You still have to evacuate.
Yeah, of course, of course. Chill.
Go outside! Move!
Leave the fucking bags!
Move forward! Do not take
Get
your
the
back.
fuck out!
Forward! Do not take your back.
Você tinha comprado tênis, já?
This is the captain evacuating.
Please just go forward. Go forward.
No photo.
Mi mochila.
Shit off the fucking. This doesn't matter. We have to.
Now that video, believe it or not, goes for another minute and a half, and they still didn't get off the plane. Where's the 90 seconds? By the way, the bad language being used, that was from the flight attendant because no one was listening to the flight attendant. They were just looking for the carry-ons. Now, where was the smoke coming from? A laptop battery that basically was smoking and about to catch fire. Remember lithium-ion batteries? But that's not the point. If the plane was consumed by smoke and fire, none of those people would have gotten out because they were too busy trying to figure out how they could take their laptop with them. Nuts. In the event of an emergency and the captain orders an evacuation, you can always go to Apple Care and get another computer. Get the you-know-what off the plane. And that video is certainly a cautionary video tale. All right, let's keep going here with some of your questions. Here's one from Michael. He said, did you say that technically a passport is not good for 10 years, but rather 9 years and 6 months? Well, actually, Michael, there are two answers, and they're both correct. A passport should be good for 10 years. That's how you bought it. That's how you got it. But if you have too many stamps on the passport and you exceed the number of pages with stamps, in the old days, you could go to any U.S. consular office or a U.S. passport agency, and they'd physically attach additional pages. Those days are gone. So even though the passport has an official validity of 10 years, once you exceed the number of pages with stamps, you got to get a new passport, no matter what. What's the 6-month figure? There are so many countries out there that if you have less than 6 months validity on your passport, they won't let you get on the plane to go there. So plan accordingly. So now you understand what I was talking about. Okay, here's one. I'm planning a 6-day, 7-night trip to Portugal, starting in the Azores for 3 nights, then moving to the Algarve for 2 nights, and Lisbon for the final night, and flight out the following day. This is from Ira. First time to the country, but does this trip sound doable, enjoyable, or are we trying to squeeze in too much? That's a rhetorical question. Everybody watching this knows. You're trying to do too much. I could spend a month in the Azores. I could spend a year in Portugal. If I were you, I'd do the following. Skip the Algarve. Add extra days in Lisbon. Pick one island in the Azores, and then you'll do your 7 days. So 3 days in one island in the Azores, and then use Lisbon as your hub. And then you can go to Cascais or Estoril, or any of the neighboring cities, Sintra, right? But right now you're trying to do too much. Okay. Here's one that is happening to more and more people. This is from James. I'm flying Newark to Stockholm, landing at 7:10 in the morning, and then Stockholm to Rome, leaving Stockholm at 4:10 in the afternoon. Will I have to collect my luggage in Stockholm, or will I receive it in Rome? If I receive it in Stockholm, then can I check in early so I don't have to slip around the bag? Okay. Welcome to the brave new world of interline baggage and how airlines are changing the deal. You didn't mention, James, which airline you're flying, but I'm assuming if you're flying Newark to Stockholm, you're on SAS. And then I hope you're continuing on SAS from Stockholm to Rome. And if you are, you should be able to check your bags all the way through. But we're having a problem in so many airlines these days where they're not honoring their interline commitments and their original agreements. So that if I'm flying American Airlines from LA to Chicago and then connecting on Delta from Chicago to Atlanta, Delta won't take the interline bags, which means you got to get your bags at American in Chicago, go back upstairs, check in the bags on the other flight, and then go through security again. What a pain. So before you ever do connecting flights, and of course, time changes as well in terms of the time between connecting flights, you need to call the airline directly and say, which airlines do you have an interline agreement with so that we can check our bags all the way through? I mean, nobody wants to go through that pain. And it's worse than that, just the time you lose. If each airline is charging you $50 for a checked bag or more, and then you got to go through the same process again with the other airline, you're double paying. So check that out. All right, let me stream down a few more things here. And while I'm doing it, let me remind everybody about an upcoming trip that I'll be doing and hosting later this year. You'll see the map right there. It's an amazing trip through the Arabian Gulf, starting in Oman and Muscat, which is the most incredible city. And I mean, it's like a Bing Crosby, Bob Hope on the road movie. It's the romance is still there, all the way through the Arabian Gulf, through Bahrain, and then into the United Arab Emirates. It's this November. Why am I doing it? I'm doing it to help support the University of Wisconsin Alumni Association, of which I'm one of them. And hope a lot of fellow Badgers will join me. Even if you're not a Badger, come along. I'll be speaking a number of times during the trip and also helping you guide on the local stops where we go ashore. And it also benefits a great cause. So check it out. It's from Go Hagen Travel. You'll see their information scrolling on the screen right now. Again, it's in November. And for those people who have worries and fears about that region of the world, 3 words from me to you in the most loving way: get a map. And when you do that, you realize we're nowhere near Gaza. We're nowhere near any areas of conflict. And you're going to have an amazing time. I know, because I've been doing this trip for the last 25 years. It's definitely worth it. And now let's go to the photo of the week. Can you see that one? How cool is this? Tracy, thank you. Tracy Kochety, I think is the right pronunciation. Apologize if I mispronounced it. And she writes, I was mid-July in Rome and the weather was hot. So we waited until dusk to get out and then walked from our hotel. And we made our way across the river and the sunset just kept getting more and more vivid. We climbed the steps and I turned around to catch this shot of Marcus Aurelius in all of his glory. The ghosts of Rome were alive and well that night. Indeed, they were. Tracy, nice work. It's always about waiting for the light, and you did just right. Even though it wasn't in your plans, you were smart enough to wait. So congratulations. If you think you got a photo that qualifies as the photo of the week, you know what to do. Just send it in to us at photocontest@petergreenberg.com. And if we agree, it goes right up there next to Tracy's. And I hope you get that done. Okay. Last but not least, I'll scroll down for a few more because we've got more of our shoot to do. Speaking of waiting for the light here in Arizona, it's magic hour for our camera crew. Let's keep going down here. Let's see if anybody, Frank says, I love your podcast and listening to you on KYW News Radio 1060. That must mean, Frank, you're in Philadelphia. I'll be on tomorrow, by the way. So listen in. Here we go. From Raymond Vixen. Aloha from Connie Bergen and all the Raymond people from thunderstormy Jersey Shore. Okay. Nicely done. Okay, a couple of updates. Our radio show this week. Where's it coming from? It's a surprise. Another hot town right now, especially in the summer. But tune in a couple of days and you'll hear me from Tampa, Florida. There goes the surprise. But I hope you enjoy it. And a very interesting conversation with Scott McCartney, the travel editor emeritus of the Wall Street Journal, who's going to dig deeper into 2 things. Why are airfares so low and how come airlines can't make any money? And 2, what's happening at the TSA in the height of these travel numbers? And is there any good news? So check it out. Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 o'clock, 10 a.m. on the West Coast. And of course, 8 to 11 or am I right? No, 9 to noon in the Midwest. And of course, we stream it live. Just go to petergreenberg.com, hit the radio icon. And of course, our shows are still playing. Travel Detectives season is on board right now on public television. Check your local listings. Also go to Amazon or Apple TV. You'll catch it there. Our Hidden series about to start again next month with Hidden Belize. And later on, we've got some great shows coming out later this year of shows that we shot all throughout the year. I hope we get a chance to see them again. Check your local listings on PBS. They're also available on Amazon Prime and Apple TV Plus. Flying out tomorrow from Arizona. I'll see you next week from another location somewhere around the world. I'm going out now to catch the best light in the Arizona heat and get some of the best photos we've ever gotten, but I can't apply for the photo of the week. It would be a conflict of interest. You can. I hope you do. We'll see you next week, everybody. I'll get you the dates as soon as we lock them in. Have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you next week.